What, me? The Flying Doctor? Doing a third preview on High Performance's H160 because I'm interested in what's promised and what I'm therefore looking forward to. Really? I've still got a reputation to protect. Welcome to the Flying Doctor channel. And just in case you're wondering where I am, this is, yes, one of my favourite sceneries. It's free, it's from flightsim.to. A big shout out here. You can see it on FlightSim.to site here. It's Gatwick Airport EGKK 2023. In fact, that's an update there, and it's produced by MKVY. Superb piece of scenery there. I'm going to say a little bit more about FlightSim.to shortly, the place to go for liveries. But in the meantime, let's just jump back into the H160 and I'll share with you what I am looking forward to that's not quite with us yet, but is promised by High Performance Group. It's interesting if you line the H160 up with the H145. You can see I've done this on highperformancegroup.com. Interesting to ask the question, well, they're both $50, 50 US dollars. And it's a fair question to say, well, what's the difference between the two of them? Why should I pay $50 for the H145 and another $50 for the H160? Well, I would say that firstly, they are very different forms of aircraft. I certainly feel jumping in the H160 because I know the H145. Things are very familiar to me, but there is a very different feel around the H160. In my kind of way of viewing it, I know that we're not looking at fixed wing aircraft, but essentially the H160 is a kind of a much more elevated aircraft than the H145. If you were trying to think that if the H145 would be sort of like the turboprop of the skies if it was fixed wing, your H160 would be more like your passenger jet or your airliner. So I think although you're not necessarily seeing a significant difference at the moment, although obviously looking into the cockpit you can see a difference in the layout, I think in the future my kind of hope is that that sort of more sort of airliner feel and the airliner processes that are used in navigation, for example, might be sort of that little bit more obvious in the H160. And one of the things that we are promised is a navigational unit. It's not with us yet, but it will be with us soon. And you can see it here. So you've got integrated Garmin GTN 750 or the TDS GTNXI. That's TDS Sim software. But also it says that the CMA 9000 FMS flight management system, I presume that stands for, is coming after launch, and I think that will be very significant. I'm really excited and looking forward to that and what it looks like. Let's just jump back in the cockpit, and I'm just going to look down here. Now the first thing you'll see is that yes, my PMS50.com subscription needs updating. If you OK that, that'll sort of just disappear. But I'm not really familiar with what have been present in the H145 before, but the PMS50 sort of does feel sort of a bit basic really. And when I look at the Airbus publications about what the cockpit looks like in the Airbus H160, these units look more like master control display units, MCDU. There's far more sort of buttons and arrays on this. I'll show you. I'll see if I can grab a picture for you and show you. But there's a real difference here because when you, for example, fly in an airliner, you'll be aware about what the MCDU looks like and how you are able to navigate through it and go through real life processes. As I say, I'm not dissing this, but it just doesn't feel right in this kind of aircraft. So I'm interested to see the CMA 9000 coming as standard. I'm also interested because, of course, with the PMS 50, I mean, these units will work, but if you get a subscription, you get more benefits. I'm hoping that the CMA 9000 will not have that kind of subscription around it. It will come standard, a bit like the master control display unit comes standard, say in a Phoenix aircraft or in any of the airliners that you see on Microsoft Flight Simulator. So allow me to illustrate here. Everything I'm showing you is for Editorial Comment. So this is from our website called secretproducts.co.uk, and they have details. It's a sort of forum of what's available in the air shows, and have this image here that I just refer. Really, it's Editorial Comment. I'll just erase the profile of the page view as well, but it's an image of the H160, as you can see here. This looks familiar to us, doesn't it? We can see these 4 screens, and we can see this gap in the middle there. All this looks very familiar, but you'll notice that when it comes down to the bottom part of the screen here, you can see that the units are actually, you know, you have this area for typing, and we'll see if we can just zoom in a little bit more on that. So yes, so this is what we're looking for to be reproduced in the aircraft, rather than the 750 units that we have at the moment. Verticalmag.com as well, just to give them a little bit of profile. When I type in the name of the unit, come up with this, the CMA, obviously the CMA 9000 flight management system, and you can see here this is the part that's visible. And yes, you're into the territory now of what you would expect to find in an airliner, and you can see it saying VNAV profile there. So it says to me that actually H145 and H160 are very kind of different aircraft in how you approach things. So yes, here are the similarities with the MCDU within the Phoenix A320, and I've done some tutorials on this, and you can see it's in terms of setting up flights, flights has a very different feel, standardized approach compared to, say, using the flight plan option, which works perfectly well. I'm really excited to see those changes, and also the integrations, because just as this is integrated or can be integrated to Navigraph, there's opportunity for sort of integration with the display, the other display unit here that has this more sort of MCDU sort of feel. It kind of lifts your level of flights. See, here's a really good example. You've got your standard arrivals on the left here that you're using for your navigation. I'm not saying that it's not possible to do this with the GTN 750 unit, for example, but yes, it just comes more naturally with these units as well. And also there's more automation around, you know, giving account for the weight that's on board, and more the role of the autopilot in managing descents. It really interests me to see how that will develop, and I think it will lift the level of the aircraft. For an aircraft costing $50, I'd expect it to be study level. Of course, it's a very relative term. What do you mean by study level? But I think what we're talking about is that the procedures that you use to prepare and carry out your navigation are as similar as possible to what is actually happening in the real aircraft. Okay, now the second thing I'm really interested in, and in fairness, this is not something that is directly supported by Hype, but it comes from the community that is so much committed to working with aircraft on Microsoft Flight Simulator. The second thing is liveries, and it's only been a week since the H160 was fully released, and already there's a page full of lovely liveries on Flight Sim TO. You can see them here. You can see H Performance Group have actually posted their livery paint kit. People have got busy. I'm amazed by this, and really all of these look fantastic, but some caught my eye in particular. I'm interested to download and have a look at Westpac Rescue, which is in 8K. It's already got 5 superb. I give them a shout. That's Aussie Blur, or OZZIEBLR. So yeah, that sort of interests me. Also, since in the UK here we have Remembrance, and Poppies of course has a particular symbolism for us in this season. There's a MCGAP Poppy version, and so Cutlass 72 has produced that. And then yeah, I just thought this one was interesting. perhaps wanting to fly, in a livery that matches the region, fictitious livery for Pakistan International Airlines. So yes, and that's Aidan Hashmi who's produced that one. So there's a lot. I can't do justice, I think, to the number of great liveries that we're going to see for this. But I'm a sucker for liveries. I love it as well. But it's just, I mean, seeing the beauty and the artistry is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. Now the third thing that I'm looking forward to are the missions. I'm interested to see what the differences and nuances will be with the missions of the H160. Apart from this thing can fly further and faster. Interested in what new elements of missions we might be able to find. I think the H145 is beginning to get really accomplished with the HEMS. The additional upgraded aircraft will be available from Hype. The action pack for the H160. The action pack for the H145, as I say, I think is pretty mature. But I'm still interested in the maps and missions section here. And Hype Performance Group has been busy. So I think you're going to see refinements here that you might not see in the H145. I'm not sure what Hype's policy will be on it, but I can see that they are playing about with the mission library with some test missions there. And don't be perturbed by this, because Hype Performances Group's modus operandi, and this is well evidenced, is that they'll put out a product and they'll continue to develop it, and there's enough in this to invest as it is. But we're going to see some missions developed here, and you can also see, in fact, I mean, I did ask a question on the Discord, and you can also see up here we've got mission selector knob. Apparently that doesn't do very much. I was quite excited by it, but it doesn't do as much. It prevents getting error messages. I think there's a little bit more involvement in terms of preparation in the cockpit for missions. If you want to know a little bit more about the missions, of course, with the H145 I did a series, and it wasn't something that I did enjoy. I did find that actually the missions helped me pilot the aircraft much more effectively. There are really effective ways when you kind of got a goal to do something, that the elements that you have to learn in order to do that, in terms of your skills in flying within the simulator and your familiarity with the processes, that needs to be much more sharper. So although they kind of felt initially to me a bit gimmicky, actually I couldn't deny that once I'd followed some missions, you were practicing landings, and you were planning flights, and it became a really fun way of exploring the world that otherwise you'd be thinking, well, where am I going to fly to today? So I found that the missions were initially, they seemed a bit geeky, but actually they were really helpful and were an integral part to learning to fly the H145. So there's a whole series there. I put a survey out to say what would people be interested in. About a third of people were really interested in this preview, but 2/3 of people were really interested in future tutorials with the H160, and I'll certainly be doing that. But if you're looking for some early hints, particularly some guidance around tablets and the autopilot, and you can't wait as long as it takes me, feel free to pop over, because the H145 system's very similar, particularly when it comes to using the tablet. And as well, you can see here we've got some tutorials on using the GTN 750. There's the autopilot tutorials, enough to get you going. They're slightly out of date, things improved and refined, but yeah, really interesting to see how the missions develop. And the final thing that I'm looking forward to, well, it's more about a wish list rather than something that Hype have promised. One of the things that you can do in the aircraft on the tablet, failures and maintenance, really interesting, because there's a whole raft of failures that you can insert into the sim. You can see all of these. So autopilot failures, backup stability augmentation failure, the panel failure, not being able to see what's happening there, pitch rot. So all of these variables, you can have failures here and failures here as well. You can have engine fires, FADEC failures, you can have leaks in your fuel tank, supply tank 1 and 2, transfer pump failures, and then also there's the maintenance page, and it gives you a really good way of being able to maintain everything. Look, I can quickly press that and it'll instantly maintain everything. So there's a lot of depth in this. When you're flying, you can switch to the tablet and you can induce a failure and see how you respond. I think that there is real potential for growth in this area. It's not quite on Hype's radar at the moment. Having said that, one of the things is that you might find, say, on Flight Sim TO, there's a script that's written, and I would be particularly interested about how you might, for example, be able to plan or understand that there's going to be a failure, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And there are scripts available for that at the moment with the H145, but they're not particularly user-friendly to implement. And a shout out here to JACN12. Now, they created a realism mod for the HPG H145. You can actually see it. It looks really, and I have to say, I haven't installed this myself, but this is how I'm being stretched a little bit. You know, when I look at the H160 and look at the sort of variety of failures that are available here. In the H145, this freeware module was an enhancement mod, and it presented pilots with unpredictable situations. You can see the list of features here. Random failure event system based on helicopter damage, all systems and failures included. Realistic systems failures reflect on helicopter behaviour and realistic damage propagation, so one thing flowing to another. Realistic icing effects on engines. I think there's something, I need to check this. I think there's something around this. Sorry, I've not switched across it, which is very helpful. So here is the the realism mod page for the HPG 145. JACN12, as I say, and I was just down to this sort of area here. Realistic icing effects on the engines, so there's no anti-ice. It's one thing about the H145 is flying in icing conditions could cause serious issues, and but there's a lovely little video here that's produced, and it just kind of shows what I'm sort of trying to talk about here. I hope this is okay. I'm going to look at this myself, so this is certainly giving a bit of publicity towards this, and this is the kind of thing produced by people in the community. As we share together, there is a we kind of feeling with high performance groups. So yeah, so you can see one thing leading to another, and you can see on this site here on the Flight Sim TO site, you know, the kind of you know, how one thing leads to another, and how you're in a sort of looking for a controlled landing rather than a crash landing. So yeah, and it's exciting to see that that's been updated as well. So that's 1st of October. November the 2nd, the latest update, 2023. So yeah, we are this thing is going. So I'll be really interested to see whether anyone else in the community, or whether JACN12 produces something for the H160, because I think that's really exciting. Then you're into the territory of, you know, having real life sort of failures and learning and estimating how well you're coping in this situation following kind of procedures. Well, right, folks, it's been great to join you. It's just certainly been a shorter video, but I do hope that was helpful. And I did think, yeah, the preview 1 and 2. I mean, 1 was a broad preview. 2 was let's have a look at taxiing and flying this thing. But 3 has been what I'm looking forward to. So I hope you've enjoyed that. So just to recap, it was the navigation unit, the CMA 9000. If that comes and it doesn't come at any extra cost, and like, I mean, for example, the GTN 750 requires that subscription. If the CMA comes without a subscription, but you still, you know, within that you connect to Navigraph or SimBrief, for example, I'm really enthused to see that. I think it will demonstrate how this is more like the equivalent of an airline or a passenger jet, rather than sort of a turboprop kind of aircraft. And I think that's the right kind of parallel. H145 very popular by Airbus as well, very capable, but as I say, the H160 is at different levels. So the navigational units, interested in the liveries. I'm a right sucker for liveries. Really interested to see how the missions develops, and also, yes, the failures. So take care, folks, stay safe. Please do subscribe, help us to get to that 1,000 points. and thanks to H1, thanks to High Performance Group for the provision of the preview copy. I guess we can now go to review now, since this is the version as purchased on site. And yes, so thanks very much to them. Honest opinions as usual. Is it worth the money? Yes, it is. It's a different type of aircraft, but it's all very relative, isn't it? But certainly, I think both aircraft are worth putting in your basket. But I might be interested if you're looking for something that's a bit more polished and well established. That's the H145. If you're looking to set out on a journey and be part of the ongoing development, feeding in, don't forget to join the Discord. This is the aircraft for you as well. So please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks a lot, folks. Take care and stay safe.